Before we get to the books, I just have to show you because it's so gorgeous. Yesterday when I went to sleep, there was not a single speck of snow on the ground. It's Christmas! Hi strangers! Today I'm going to be talking about all of the 2024 releases coming up that I'm really excited for. Most of these are science fiction, which is kind of on brand, but there are a couple others that I have sprinkled in there that I'm still really excited for. These are in no particular order. I probably could have ordered them in when they were coming out, but we're just going with how I wrote them down. There's no rhyme or reason to the order of these books. First up is Ocean's Godori. This is by Elaine Yu Cho. In this book, the main character is a space pilot, and when I was a kid, I had range. I wanted to be so many different things, but one of the biggest things that over and over again I always said I wanted to be was a space pilot. Anyways, so this follows a space pilot. She's Korean. She's kind of tackling her Korean identity and making her way in her career. And I think there's murder in space. It talks about colonialism and capitalism, which are my favorite themes. So this synopsis was honestly like written for me, so I'm very excited about it. Next up is The Siege of Burning Grass by Premi Mohammed. Premi Mohammed is really prolific in the Canadian indie sci-fi space. She's written a lot of short stories that have been published in a lot of different venues, and next year she's having like a bunch of books published, so honestly I was having trouble selecting one. I believe this is her first novel, full-length novel. This one follows an anti-war activist and it's kind of exploring themes of pacifism and revolution, and that's interesting to me. And I think it takes place in like a sci-fi world that's giving a little bit steampunk, like there's a floating city, so maybe it's like kind of fantasy-esque as well. Premi Mohammed is very cerebral and creative, so I'm excited to see what her full-length novel is like. Next up is The Floating Hotel by Grace Curtis. This one I'm so excited for. The synopsis makes it seem like Becky Chambers mixed with the second book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. It's basically about a hotel that travels across the galaxy, and it comes to you rather than you having to like travel across the galaxy to go to the hotel. I think it's gonna be cozy and whimsical, and yeah, maybe Travis Baldry in space hotel form. We'll see. Okay, this next one is one is not like the others, kind of. It's called Don't Want You Like a Best Friend, and it's by Emma R. Albin. This is a pure romance book. It takes place in the 1800s, and it follows lesbian debutantes. So, you know, it's 400 pages, which is maybe too many pages for this, but I'm gonna read every single one of those pages. Can't resist. Next up is The Tusks of Extinction by Ray Naylor. Ray Naylor wrote A Mountain in the Sea, which I still haven't read yet, but it's like at the tippity top of my to-buy list, so I want to read it very soon. And you would maybe say like, should I read that one before I get this one? But Mountain in the Sea is about intelligent octopuses and kind of like intelligent other animals. Is one of my favorite things ever. The Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. The second book in that series has intelligent octopuses, or maybe they're squids or something, and it was phenomenal, so I definitely want to read that one. But The Tusks of Extinction is kind of a mix between Jurassic Park and the Kaiju Preservation Society, but with mammoths. That sounds sick. It's gonna be awesome. Next book is The Red Side Story by Jasper Ford. Now, let me tell you, when I first saw this book, I literally didn't believe what I was seeing, so I kind of forgot about it. And then I saw it again, and I was like, that simply cannot be what I think it is. but it is. It's the second book to Shades of Grey, not the horny one, and I am so excited. I honestly came to terms with the fact that we were never getting a sequel to Shades of Grey, but here it is, and I'm very excited. This is satirical, it's dystopian, it's just a fun romp. It kind of comments on bureaucracy and class, and I loved the first one. I read it in 2019, so I might have to go back and read it again, but I'm very excited that we're finally getting a sequel. Then we have Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes, and it's another science fiction, but it's a horror this time. So S.A. Barnes wrote Dead Silence that I read this year. I really enjoyed it. It was super fun. I love the setting and the atmosphere. This was kind of like Among Us on a planet where this mystery disaster happened. I think this one's just gonna be fun. Sci-fi horror time. The next book I was super excited for is The Extinction of Irena Ray by Jennifer Croft. I don't actually know that much about it in terms of the synopsis, but it is about translation, and translation is, again, one of my favorite themes. I read a lot of sci-fi books and sci-fi stories that are about translation, communication, and what is lost in translation and things like that. And I'm really excited to read a literary fiction version of this, and it's written by a translator, so I think that's going to be a really cool aspect, and I'm really excited for it. Next is a short fiction collection called Convergence Problems. It's by Wole Talaby, who wrote I Dream of Electric Mothers, which was nominated for the Best Novelette by both the Hugo and the Nebula Award. It was originally published in Africa Risen, which I haven't read yet. I've read some of the short stories in there, but not the whole thing. But I read this one, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to read other short stories by him. Then we have Jumpnauts by Hao Jingfang, and this one is translated by Ken Liu. If you know anything about me, you know I fucking love Ken Liu. His short stories are some of my favorite ever. He's made me cry, which is very difficult for a book to do, or writing to do. And this book is First Contact with Aliens. I think there's some political stuff going on. Mostly it's translated by Ken Liu. I'm excited for it. Next is Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. The title is just gorgeous, and the only thing I needed to hear about the synopsis is that it's monster-slaying lesbian romance. That's it. Sounds good. I'm gonna read it. Then we have Annibot by Sierra Greer. I don't know if you can tell by the cover, but this is one of those books that has one of those synopses that can so easily take a sharp left turn and just be absolute hot garbage. But I have hopes. And this is about a sex robot. The main character is a sex robot, and her name is Annie. I think it's gonna be good. My expectations aren't that high, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Then, our first and only nonfiction book on this list, which I read a lot of nonfiction. I just couldn't, when I was doing research for this video, I couldn't actually find that many that were coming out in 2024 that I'm actually interested in. How I find most of my nonfiction is through podcasts, guests on podcasts, or I'm just scrolling through my Libby app and something pops up that I'm interested in. But yeah, I couldn't find too many, but this one, it's called Tripping on Utopia. It's by Benjamin Breen, and the subtitle is Margaret Mead, the Cold War and the Troubled Birth of Psychedelic Science. How cuckoo bananas does that sound? That sounds freaking cuckoo bananas. So excited. I'm currently listening to Blitzed, which is about hard drugs being used in the Third Reich, and I'm really enjoying it. It's fascinating. And the Cold War is my favorite part of history. I did a lot of that in my undergraduate degree, so I'm very excited. And last, but certainly not least, is Womb City. This one's by Tlotlo Tomase. This is another science fiction. It takes place in kind of like a dark, dystopic sci-fi future of Botswana. I was born in Botswana, but I haven't actually read that many books set there. I have read the #1 Ladies Detective Agency, the first, I think, 4 or so books. I love those. Those are like my cozy comfort reads. I always buy 1 or 2 when I'm on holiday if I find them at used bookstores, because then it's kind of a little trinket to take home, and I will eventually read all of them. This one's by a woman from Botswana, whereas the #1 Ladies Detective Agency is by a white man, so I think the perspective is definitely going to be different, and it's science fiction. And I think like the main science fiction element is this woman has like an implant that her husband can control her body with. That's kind of all I know about it. I didn't want to read too much. I think the setting is going to be really cool. I think it's going to definitely tackle some like feminist topics through an Afrofuturistic lens, so really excited for that one. And there we go. Those are all of the books so far that I've heard of, and maybe I'm missing a few, but those are a lot of the books that I'm excited for coming out in 2024. Maybe at the end of 2024 I'll go through and see which ones I actually ended up reading. My bet is like at least 5. At least 5 of these I will have read, because some of these I'm super hyped about and I think are gonna be just amazing. Some of them I have lower expectations, but I'm still very interested in. So thanks for watching. I'll see you later.